now? Can you hear me now? Today, I'm honored to have the opportunity to welcome in absentia our honorable founder and chairman, Professor Dr. Suresh Nagpalji, and the vice chairman of our institution, Mrs. Geeta Nagpalji, and the distinguished members of the management, our respected Principal Dr. Badrananda Ma'am, all in absentia. Respected Dean Sir of PG programs, Dr. C.J. Rajendra Prasad, the various HODs of the various departments, learned delegates from academia, and my dear students, a magnificent afternoon to you all. I, Farheen Najma Basit, Assistant Professor, Department of MCOM, KDC, take great pleasure in welcoming you all to the 5-day international webinar series on educating minds to foster sustainable development goals. Someone once said, learning is definitely not mere imitation, nor is it the ability to accumulate and regurgitate fixed knowledge. Learning is a constant process of discovery, a process without end. With much pride, I take pleasure in inviting our much beloved Dean Sir, Dr. C.J. Rajendra Prasad, to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Very good afternoon to all of you. I hope my voice is clear.
Hello? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are clear, sir.
Great. Very proud to have the second day of this international webinar series, and I'm sure that our resource person, Dr. Ambika Sharma, is going to share with us extreme knowledge and value-added information, which I'm sure all our students and faculty members will be proud to actually learn from. Dr. Ambika Sharma, we welcome you to this session, and I'm sure that your topic, which is revamping methods to synergize experiential learning, is going to be of great interest to all our faculty and students. I request all the students and faculty members to kindly raise questions as and when in the chat box, or you can also record the questions and retain it till the end and have the resource person address the same. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I'm sure that you'll have a lot to take home from it. I wish this all the best. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, sir, for your resourceful words. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat box, which is provided. We'll bring them up after the presentation is over. And feedback link will also be provided at the end of the session in the chat box and also in the WhatsApp group. Please don't forget to fill it. And ladies and gentlemen, now without further ado, we will turn the time over to Ms. Jennifer Lalsang-Lomi, student of 3rd Sem MCOM, to introduce our guest speaker of the day, Dr. Ambika Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, NIT, Hamirpur, Himachal Pradesh. Over to you, Jennifer.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, Jennifer, you are.
Good afternoon, all. I am Jennifer of 3rd semester MCOM. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome and introduce you to the resource person today, Dr. Ambika Sharma, who is currently a faculty of English at the National Institute of Technology, Hamirpur, Himachal Pradesh. Besides that, ma'am is an avid and ambitious researcher whose area of interest lies in postmodernism, digital humanities, eco-critical studies, and Duluth Katarin studies. Dr. Ambika is multi-talented. She is an acting supervisor to many PhD research scholars working in Myra domains. She has a doctorate from the Department of English and Cultural Studies, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Ma'am has 25 publications in the form of research papers, book chapters in UGC and Scopus Index journals to her credit. Dr. Ambika has traveled extensively throughout India and has presented papers at esteemed universities and Institute of Imams like BHU Varanasi, Delhi University, JMI Delhi, and some prominent NITs. She currently working on 6 different projects in the area of research, fiction and non-fiction. With all due respect, I would like to invite Dr. Ambika to give her valuable insights with us on the topic of revamping methods to synergize experiential learning. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Very good afternoon to one and all present here. Uh, First and foremost, thank you to the administration, to the management for giving me this opportunity of coming to this forum. And of course, Dr. Rajendra, the way he introduced the very essentiality of the talk today, because this topic which you have kind of come up with is something which is needed, and as we're working towards the SDGs, we're working towards so many things. We're working up on with the national education policy coming up. So, when Dr. Nigam approached me, I was really intrigued that what a wonderful talk it's going to be. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. So, I wish you, I just want to congratulate you all, first and foremost, for coming up with such an intriguing topic. Let's start. I think I'll not waste any time, and I'll be sharing my screen with you all. Dr. Nigam, is the screen there?
I can see your screen. Go ahead, please.
So you see, my topic when I was approached by Dr. Nigam also, my topic, revamping methods to synergize experiential learning, because we are talking about fostering sustainable development goals and we are fostering education as such. So I just thought that why not talk about the methods to synergize this experiential learning. We're always in the process of, learning through our experiences. And if we look at how we have come across in the times, I just want to say that if you look back when the Millennium Development Goals they came up, and we were still trying to struggle with many things. And as far as education is concerned, education becomes something which is very, very important. And even in the Millennium Development Goals, if we see, there were times when we came across statistics which were which were very kind of, it was putting us into doldrums, of course, because we saw that there were certain countries which were not able to give a quality education in terms of inclusivity, in terms of equity, and that was a matter of concern for all of us, of course, across the globe. So, revamping methods, I would say my talk is not just going to talk and throw light on revamping methods in terms of coming up with methods as in the SDGs or the NEPs, but what I'm trying to say is that we have to learn from our experiences. And when I say experiences, I am trying to connect with the students which are a part of this forum today, because they are the ones for whom these new policies are coming up, and we are kind of keeping track of how the education should be actually fostered in the times now and in the coming as well. So going ahead, my agenda for the talk is going to be, I will be talking about how we understand education, what education really is for us, and what is the role of the SDGs there, and what are the primary goals as such. And when we talk about the SDGs in terms of education, of course, we are looking at the target of 2030. You already know about it, right? And globally speaking, what is the global education agenda? Now, if we look at the futuristic models here, the NAP, of course, we are aware that the NAP it has been refurbished. It has come to us with the NAP 2020 now. And as a result, how through this process of synergizing and coming up with some futuristic models, we are actually trying to revamp certain methodologies. And as I said, that everything comes down to the game comes down to our experiences. It comes down to us dealing with things. Triggering a change, I think, is very, very easy, but taking ownership of the change is something which is the need of the hour. And the students, of course, as I said, they are the ones who should be taking the ownership here. Of course, the teachers, they play a very pivotal role, because they are the kind of catalysts, of course, in modeling and remodeling and playing the kind of role which is very much needed in order to kind of make the students think out of the box and develop their skills in a manner that they are able to critically and analytically think, and therefore become they themselves, they can become the policy makers in the longer run, and we can have people with us who are triggering change and taking the ownership of that change, indeed, right? Starting off with the introduction, I just want to say that education, of course, as we say, what is education and what's the role of education here? It's a quality purpose. You see, quality purpose, when I say, is in the sense that you are trying to give a qualitative edge, not just to an individual, but to his complete persona, and you're trying to make him come out of his bounds. Right. Now, those bounds, they can be territorial bounds, because if we see globally, the education parameters, they are very stuck. There are people who are not able to get education as such. But of course, now the numbers, they have taken a leap. If we look at from the MDGs to the SDGs, because if we look at the MDGs at that point of time in the 2000s, the low income countries, they were not able to produce quality education as such. But of course, now the numbers has shifted a bit, of course. And as I said, the paradoxes are involved. There is the ecological divide. There is the unsustainable patterns of production and consumption. The vulnerability aspect is, of course, there. Inequality exclusion is there. And this sort of, this paradigm kind of creates a conflict of sorts. And if there is conflict, there can't be growth. We know that. So fostering sustainable development goals and fostering education in terms of cutting away from the paradoxes is very, very important. You see, we have to realize that these paradoxes have to be thought of, they have to be questioned at large. And when I say question, question itself is very, very important. Experiential learning की जब हम बात करते हैं, we are actually talking about learning from your experiences. You see, so somewhere or the other, understanding the paradoxes, questioning the paradoxes, and kind of working on the paradoxes is something that is going to edge and chalk out the policy bandwidth as well. So yes, of course, the fundamental purpose of education, we all know, is to sustain the dignity and the capacity of the human panorama as such, you see. And what I want to say here is that we need to understand education in terms of reaffirming a humanistic approach of sorts. And when I say reaffirming the humanistic approach, I am trying to say it in terms of the 3 R's. We need to rethink, we need to revamp, we need to recognize. Now, what do we need to rethink? As I said, we need to rethink the concerns which are there for a sustainable fostering of the goals. Now, this rethinking, as I said, it doesn't just come from the policymakers, but it comes from the cutting edge from all the territories. And if it doesn't, then we are in a deterritorialized state. The assemblages of thought and that compounding of thought that comes down, it nullifies, it comes down to zero. And of course, revamping our methods to achieve the set standards and transforming the existing picture. So revamping and polishing from time to time, that's very much needed. And we have to go on and on and on. And this process is not a process of coming from, like we say, that learning is a process which goes from the birth to death, okay, from the cradle to grave. But I really don't think that it is like that. I rather think that learning is a process wherein we are moving from one cradle to another cradle. It's just like, jumping from cradle to cradle to cradle. And in the process, we are growing. We are recognizing. We are recognizing what? We are recognizing the diversity, we are recognizing the lived realities, and then, of course, we are reaffirming the core of the universal ethical values. So it's not just limited to one aspect, but universality at large is what is important there. A role of the SDGs, of course, if we look at the SDGs, we all are aware of the SDGs, and I'm not going to throw light on what are the different SDGs as such, but you see, the number 4 comes down to be very important when we are talking about the role of education as such. And I think the idea of Raworth, Kate Raworth, who's an Oxford graduate, has come up with a very interesting paper in Nature about economics, donut economics. And if you see that donut, she has kind of aligned the importance of what goes inside the donut and what's on the edges of the donut, and how we have to work on the outside things not coming inside so that the inside piece can be maintained at large. So somewhere or the other, if we have to maintain the sanctity of the donut, we will have to actually preserve the inside. We will have to work on the inclusion and as well as the exclusion, because what goes inside and what goes outside, that balance has to be maintained, and then only we can have what is called as the quality education here. Primary goals of the SDGs as such, as I said, I'm not going to talk about the details of it because we all are aware. And of course, initially when it was started in 2000 and 2015, that time period, you see, there were around goals, there were around 8 goals, 21 targets, but by and by things were being kind of approached, and altogether they were not approached. As a result, the 17 goals with 169 targets adopted by the UN member states in 2015 came up, and they have to be achieved by 2030. And as I said, SDG 4 is ensuring inclusivity, equitable quality, and lifelong learning opportunities. So the moment we are saying lifelong learning opportunities, as I said, experiential learning itself comes in there. And of course, now we have the NEP, which is there, the National Education Policy 2020, which rather in terms of experiential learning, I will say, is the new programming. You see, you are trying to new existential programming. It will come in one of the slides. That's what I have named it. The new existential programming within yourselves, within the systems around you, within the policies around you. So you and the individuals, especially the students, they need to program themselves. They need to question, as I said, question in the class, challenge your teachers. And if you're challenging your teachers, you're actually setting in that inclusive kind of a statement of saying that I am included in the race for quality education as well. You see, we're not just looking at the ones who are deprived. We're also looking at a student in the classroom who is not participative enough, is also a deprived individual. So, and of course, the teacher, as I said, plays the role of a catalyst there in kind of invigorating the minds of, because the mind of the student is just like a tabula rasa, as it is said. It's a clean slate. We should go forward. We as teachers, we should go forward in the class with this approach. I always go in the class with this approach, and my students, they tend to say that, ma'am, you make the class so challenging, you make the class so interesting. And this, having come from engineering students, you see, it kind of propels me to always challenge myself in the process of experiential learning itself. So the role of the teachers, as I said, is absolutely important there, right? So if we go down to our next slide, that is the target 2030, what it is trying to set forth. 2030 is aiming to be setting the new beginnings of the old becomings. So we were living in the old becomings, but now we are living towards a new agenda. Now, this new agenda, as we are seeing, it is more comprehensive. It's more outcome based. It's skill oriented. If I presume that some of you are well aware of the NEP and what all changes have come in there. There are skill orientation programs. There are, of course, multidisciplinarity has been given a lot of importance, and it's kind of a, as I put it on the screen as well, it's a regenerated vision which aims to foster learning for decent work, social and civic life, and amalgamation with the other SDGs. Quality education itself is not just, you can't zero it down to just one thing. When we are talking about education, we're talking about reducing hunger. When we are talking about education, we're talking about gender disparity. So it's an amalgam of sorts, you see. So that's there. And if we just come down to the global education agenda here, the global education agenda in terms of the SDG 4. Now, I have tried to chalk it down in saying that what is the scope? What is the scope of this global education agenda as such in terms of the SDG 4 quality education? We are trying to provide the basic education, the post-basic education with a lifelong learning perspective. So, eclectical approach of sorts is being a part of the game. Coverage, if we see the universal agenda with a universal outlook, which we are seeing, of course, now. The process leaders have been the member states. Policy focus, if we see, is access to quality-based learning, equitability, relevance of learning for a longer duration, and number of targets, of course, is 0 down to 10 as of now. There are certain challenges as well in the process. We have to recontextualize the boundaries of learning always and every time, not just in the private sector, but as well as the public sector, both it is vice versa. And changing role of the teachers, as I said, is very, very important therein. Changing role of the state is equally important. Now, educating in a plural sense, plurality is what will actually make us understand what is the global, what is the local. That monitoring has to be there. You see, the national and the local monitoring has to be there. Then only we are going to move towards a paradigm which can actually make us feel that we are individual mindsets. You know, we are individual assemblages, as I say. Centrality of education, if we see, like I said, education somewhere or the other, it's not an isolated sort of paradigm, because we see that everything is interconnected: health, inequality, hunger, gender, then inclusive societies, climate, everything. If you see, education itself, it's the center hub, and at the center it is placed. Around it, it's, as I said, even the donut economics which we are talking about, we are looking at the center in terms of education only. We can't look at the center if we are not educated. Okay, so quality education is very important. If you have that quality education, then probably you will be able to eliminate the gender disparities. You will be able to eliminate all sort of inequalities, for that matter, which will seep into the system. So centrality of education plays in a very important sort of role there. Now, what we look forward to when we talk about revamping methods in order to synergize the experiential learning, I have kind of made it into these 5 points that we look forward to: assessment. We had the SDGs, we had previously the MDGs, we came up with the NEP now, but then assessment, as I said, we need to have assessment in a continuous, in a continuous sort of a manner. The stat says that 78% countries have appointed the coordinators and the focal points for mapping the target of 2030, which is a fair enough, good number. And of course, we also in India, we have Niti Aayog playing a very important role there. And there are multi bodies which are looking into the different aspects of this longevity aspect of learning, experiential learning, of course. Association, nearly half of the countries, they have associated and established the national coordination mechanism. So you see, what is needed is assessment, association, acculturation, of course, localizing the meetings, consultations is very, very important. So you just can't be looking at the larger picture, but you will also have to look at the smaller picture, because the moment you start looking at the smaller hub, then only you can actually work towards the larger hub, you see. Adaptation, understanding the technical, financial, and time-bound constraints. Now, we need to adapt to our resource management loopholes as well. Now, if there is, because see, quality education is something which is directly proportional to earning longevity of sorts. So we will have to adapt ourselves to questioning the resources, questioning the policy bandwidth, questioning the policy experimentation, system analytics approach should be there. So all of that has to be there. And then only we can move towards adoption of new regimes. We can, if we are doing these four things, we are looking forward to a future of 2030 wherein we can actually say that, if not completely, which we are trying to hint at and trying to achieve right now, but at least we will be very much near to adoption of it in some of the other sense. And then in the process, we will also adapt and adopt some new regimes. So you see, kind of, which is very, 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 very needed and very, very important there. Futuristic modules, NEP. Herein I have tried to, because this is a commerce college, so in order to not make my presentation mundane and look, the students should not feel that, oh, what is ma'am speaking? So, kind of, I have just put in that planning, marketing, design, strategy, and launch there. So if you look at the future, because in the previous slide we were talking about the idea of refurbishing and coming up with new regimes. Now, if we look at the futuristic models of the NEP as such, I'm not talking about the NEP 2020. You see, we saw that planning has been taking place. We saw that marketing of ideas have been taking place. And when marketing of ideas took place, then of course, dissemination of standardized metrics happened. As a result, we came forward with NEP 2020. Design, if we say, coordination with the different sector analysis and midterm reviews, then only we have been able to come up with the new norms in the NEP 2020, like we have vocational skills training, we have digital, importance being given to the digital divide, which should not be there. Today we see students around, they are well versed with so many new things, you see, and of course they should not be coming to terms with technology is very, very important, but then learners' autonomy is equally important. Questioning learners' autonomy is equally important. People, my students, they tend to tell me that, ma'am, we have chat GPT and I completed my assignment using the chat GPT. So I just told one of my students that it's good if you are into, the design and the coordination with the design, and but then you have to strategize yourself in the sense that you have to broaden the contours of your brain mapping. You can't just divide your attention to just one thing and say, okay, I have sources, I have resources. Having resources is good, but then at the same time, the skill set, it should be brushed from the learner's autonomy standpoint. That's very, very important. We all have autonomous features, and as I said, that India is a country which really needs youth who should be, who should be getting into this planning and marketing and designing and strategizing and launching new policies and working towards contributing themselves as a contributing force, working with the think tanks and contributing to the development of not just the nation, the local, the global, and the global as such. That's the broadening of the horizon of your, as I said, the mind mapping is very, 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 very important. It's very crucial. So here, strategy, of course, foster holistically superior methodologies, and we have to be in the futuristic modules as well, and models both, I would say. We have to foster holistically superior methodologies. It should not just be that we are in the NAP 2020 now. The game doesn't stop there. The buck doesn't stop there, but it keeps going on and on and on. And strategy is what is going to make us foster holistic methodologies therein. And then, of course, launch, come forward with some new strategic networks of experiential learning programs. That's equally important there. Now, this is one wonderful quote by Richard Branson, and I have taken from the business perspective because, as I said, the commerce students are there and management people are there. So, business opportunities, they're like buses, and there's always another one coming. You see, so experiential learning is also something similar. It's not the direction which matters. It's not the journey that matters, but it is rather the employability of your sources and resources. Like I said, your mindset, your individual framework, your putting yourself into a mode of questioning, in a mode of doing your own SWOT analysis and asking what opportunities are there, what buses are there on which the bandwagons which you actually should be harping on, and how you should be going forward to contribute in even a minutest of aspect. You see, that's very, very important. So, revamping methods in NEP 2020. Now, NEP 2020, I say here revamping methods because what does 2020? I'm not looking at the entire document here, but just to enlighten my students a bit, but please do have a look at it. And it's not just, this document is not just for the teachers to look at, but it's also for the students to look at. They should be aware what's coming out, what's going in, where we are standing. You see, Oxfam report is saying that we as Indians, we are not, we look at the billionaires. We are still in a kind of a divide wherein we have not been able to do justice. You see, because even the Oxfam recently had come up with a wonderful report wherein it had talked about 4.6 billion of people still living and reeling under poverty. So you see a lot of stats which are very disturbing, I would say. And it becomes very important, as I said, for the student to see what it is, where we are standing, what methods are coming up, what the government is trying to do, what the policymakers are trying to do. You see, so now 2020 is something, it is having a clearer vision. And what is the vision there? In a gist, I'll just take you across this because I'm not going to touch upon the main, all other points, of course, but just the main ones. Clearer vision because we witness integration of the subjects. So integration of subjects have happened in here. Development of the scientific temper is there. Of course, no loss among the subjects. See, it's very important as students, of course, and otherwise as well. Experiential learning is not just limited to you being an engineering student and just taking engineering and studying engineering. But let us take, I always tell my students that, you see, we are from humanist background. We say humanities. So we are trying to make you humans in the process. So, of course, you are learning, but then your experiences are going to make you learn more. So don't just limit yourself to just one learning experience. Make your approach very much, towards the amalgamation of different temperaments. That's very much needed. Okay. So yes, prioritization is there. We see digital literacy coding has come up, computational thinking has come up, ethical, moral reasoning has come up, and competency-based education, multilingualism has come up. So you see, now education has become that you can, any language, your regional language, you can take up and you can study from your regional language as well. NEP 2020, of course, is a phased approach, and there is innovation in pedagogy, there is transformation in terms of teaching as well as learning both. Analysis of the resource requirements, of course, again, holistic, as I said, the topic of this conference is very, very interesting and something in which I could actually sink in my PPT. And it was easy for me to make a PPT at the last moment because I had been traveling of late. And the topic is so interesting, you see. This is happening around us. We are experiencing it. So we are learning out of that experience, as I said. So fostering the holistic, superior methodologies, textbooks with local content has come, and they should be coming up. And flavor of Diksha platform is there. Samajik Chetna Kendras will be there, and Bal Bhavans are going to be there. Now, role of teachers, if we see, is something which is very, very important, as I said in the beginning itself, because teachers, they are the main catalysts. Let's not go into the classrooms with an approach of the book. Uh, I always tell my students that, okay, we do come in the classroom with the books at times, but then let us not just be dependent on those books, but let us try to make them avid researchers, because the moment you're limited to the book, you're just limited to your learning is limited, and you will not be able to expand your horizons of learning at all. So there are times when children, they tell me that, ma'am, you taught today this, and this was not in the book. So you see, it challenges them. It challenges them. They will be actually seeing what you have taught. So your adding, you acting like a catalyst is equally important. And then, of course, foundational skill sets are there in terms of NAP 2020, not just for the students, but as well as for the teachers. And critical thinking becomes absolutely important for both the policy participants, I would say, and vocational skill fostering, experiential paradigm altogether is what is going to be set in there. Areas of focus, if I see the areas of focus here also, the B2B market scenarios. When we look at this B2B market scenarios in terms of management and otherwise, we see that, what is the strategy? We develop the winning strategies to keep ahead of the competition. Similarly, in terms of quality education, you can look down there. Developing the holistic strategies to foster competency is important there. In the B2B market scenarios, capitalizing on the low hanging fruits to identify the ballpark value is important. And herein, we have to capitalize on the inclusive approach. Visualizing the customer directed convergence becomes very important there, and visualizing the institutional restructuring consolidation, keeping in mind equity, resource output, overall promotion. That is the area of focus. Here also in education, it's similar to the B2B and the B2C market scenario. It's very much similar, but it's on you. Now, interdisciplinarity is on you, that how you connect the things. Nothing is isolated. No literature is isolated, you see. I myself, I come from a literature background, but I try to explore my own, field and the other fields as well. So I would just ask my students, my dear students who all are participating in this forum today, robust number, of course, and I think these students, they need to be the real service providers, right? And they need to work on these strategic norms, which can actually make them, as I said, refurbish the system, which can make them broaden the scope of not just the policies which are existing, but the policies which are going to come up in the near future for the overall development of each and every individual. NAP, as I said, the new experiential programming. Now, if we look at the return of investment in terms of management, we envision multimedia-based expertise, cross-media growth strategies, we visualize quality intellectual capital, we engage worldwide methodologies with web-enabled technologies, right? And we try to create niche markets and scalable customer service through sustainable strategies, engage the top-line web services with the cutting-edge deliverables, supply chains, cultivating one-to-one customer service with robust ideas, and maximizing the timely deliverables for real-time schemas. So you see, if we see the kind of the amalgamation, as I said, there is this beautiful amalgamation, and we have what's happening in management is what is happening in this process, in this journey of the new experiential programming as well. So this is exactly what I'm trying to say, that we need to revamp methods in order to synergize, in order to question, in order to program, in order to come up with things which can actually make each and every individual a participant in a holistic sense. So that's very much needed in there. Right. So coming forward with the next methods to synergize experiential learning. Now, like I said in the start, that somewhere or the other, the methods which should be there is we need to have experimentations in terms of system analytic approach. We have to have system thinking approach, rather, I would say. And we need to be questioning a lot. We have to have the broadening of the nation building. We have to question the longevity ideas, as I said. And when we will question that, then this Coles learning cycle will actually take place. The cycle came in 1984, talked about the idea of the concrete experience, actually having the experience, reflective observation, reflecting on the experience, abstract conceptualization, learning from the experience, active experimentation, trying out what you have learned. Now you see, when you go into the classroom, some of the students, they go in the classroom just for the attendance. You see, and because they know that this is the markup value, and let us just go for the attendance. Please tell yourselves, you are the, this is a very cliche statement for me to say that you're the future of the nation, right? But this is a very a kind of a statement which has been there since time eons, and we have heard it, our previous generations, they have heard it, and now you people are the ones who are hearing this. But then today's approach is such that people are getting, even the grading is pretty good these days. And at our times, of course, when we were into the process of this experiential learning, our experiences in terms of getting marks were not that smooth, because I'm sure everybody's going to agree with me, the ones who come in from my generation or from the previous. At that point of time, the 60-70 percenters were considered to be somebody who was very, they were intellectual heads. But today, the grading has become very, very easy for people. And please don't indulge in going in the classroom for the attendance, because the methods of synergizing is in your hands. You have to have a concrete experience, and that will happen only if you are there in the classroom. You're listening to your teachers, you're listening to the kind of the ideas which the teacher and the student, the kind of a parallels which is being drawn between the two. And then reflective observation from each and every one of you should be questioning. Each and everybody should be questioning the teacher. Challenge your teachers. Do reflective observation. Reflect upon your experiences of the class. Today I was in the class, I learned this. What about tomorrow? What am I going to learn tomorrow? Ask your teacher, what is the agenda for tomorrow? See what you can, come up with. Come up with questions. Then abstract conceptualization, of course, you can form abstract ideas, but from those abstract ideas, sometimes you can actually come up with active experimentation as well. An idea, you see, is just like a root. You see, the moment you have an idea, the root is already planted, and it is going to get into a beautiful blooming flower if active experimentation comes from the experiences, right? From your experiences. Coming to the learner autonomy, which I was talking about, Cole's experiential learning cycle, if you can see on the screen, you have to do it, okay? You have to question what happened. Why and how did it happen? What next? Now, this Cole's experiential learning cycle is not just in the class itself. I would not say that. I would not go by the dictums of the book, but this experiential learning cycle is in our life, at every step of our life. You have to do, you have to question, you have to keep questioning, you have to keep pondering what next. It has to be, if NAP 2020 has come today, let's take advantage of what has come to us. Let's question what next. Let's question what next to next. You see, let us, we all are, we don't have to be a part of the think tanks. You yourself, you have, God has been very kind and benign to all of us that we have a thinking tank there. And it's a kind of an anomaly. We are living in an anomaly that we are not using our think tank in the manner in which we should be using. So that's what we are not doing. As a result, we are somewhere or the other, we are lagging behind, and in terms of our experiences, in terms of our learning, and we're not able to actually do justice to what is known as learner's autonomy. So learner has to decide his role. That's very important, right? That's absolutely important. And coming to the end of my presentation, I would just like to say that some of the beautiful lines which I came across, that tell me I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I will learn, Benjamin Franklin, you see. So yes, tell me I forget, teach me I remember, involve me I learn. So, Involve Me, I Learn itself is talking about revamping methods to synergize the experiential learning. The moment you say, Involve me and I'm going to learn, you are revamping your methods to synergize. You see? And there is only one thing more painful than learning from experience, and that is not learning from experience at all. So, please, my dear friends, my dear teachers, especially my youth, which is a part of this session today, this forum today, my young folks, my young friends, I actually request you that please start thinking. Think in the class, think out of the class. Don't go into the classroom with an approach of just getting a job and with an approach of just having a good placement. Everybody wants a good placement, but there are people who are placed at the best of places, but then the place is not so best as well, you see, in that place. So that matters. So how you are going to approach yourself, that with that that vigor, how you are going to go forward, that's extremely important, right? So coming to an end, I'd end my conversation here, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for bearing with me in this good 1 hour, I would say. And I hope that I have been able to do some sort of a justice to your topic of your talk today, that is fostering the Sustainable Development Goals towards education. Thank you so much. Dr. Nigam.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for the interesting insights into global education agenda and the role of SDGs and the futuristic models such as NEP. You took us through these very important topics that are impacting all of us in the current times in a very, very eloquent and expressive manner. I must mention that we all have been fortunate enough to be able to witness such a spectacular display of knowledge demonstration from an academic expert such as you. So now we will go ahead and take some time out for the questions. Any questions, audience? Do we have any questions? I guess no questions.
Well, when there are no questions, it is often said either the lecture was very interesting or it was not interesting at all. You see, if it
I
is
guess it
not
was very interesting.
if it is not intriguing your mind, then probably you were satisfied with it. You were satiated, or either you were not.
So I guess everyone in the audience have 100% understood the content.
Okay.
Okay, so I assume there are no questions. I request now Ms. Rutu Reddy, our student from 3rd Sem MCOM, to propose a vote of thanks to our speaker and everybody else.
Thank you, Dr. Fareen Najma, for your wonderful words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. It's a pleasure.
Can you hear, ma'am?
Yes, Rutu, I can hear you.
Thank you, ma'am. A warm and graceful afternoon to everyone. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I would like to thank our resource person, Dr. Ambika Sharma, for sharing in-depth knowledge and valuable information about revamping methods to synergize experiential learning. Thank you, ma'am. I would like I would like to thank our beloved Dean, Dr. C.J. Rajendra Prasad, Vice Principal Professor Abigail Ma'am, Dr. Badrulisa Ma'am in her absentia. I would like to thank also Dr. Shivani Ma'am and Professor Karin Ma'am for their encouragement and continued support throughout the webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants for being a part of our Day 2 International webinar. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Let me once again at this closing instance thank you all for having joined us for this webinar and listening to our eminent speakers, and most importantly for giving us your precious time. Have a